How is a bank that got its start in the transportation industry using tech like MuleSoft and APIs to grow and transform its business? That's what I'm going to find out in this episode of Dynamic Developer. I'm your host, Bill Detwiler. Back in June 2021, I had a chance to speak with Kurt Carews, President and CEO of Tab Bank, about how a bank that started life 20 years ago, operating out of truck stops across the U.S., has been using modern fintech platforms and development processes to transform its business. We didn't have a chance to air the episode back then, but we do now, and I hope you enjoy it because it's a good one. Kurt, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you making the time to talk with me.
Absolutely, Bill. It's a pleasure.
So before we get started, and we talk about digital transformation, give me a rundown on what Tab Bank is and what you do.
Certainly. Tab Bank kind of has a very unique story. So we're 23 years old, and when Tab Bank was founded, originally the family that owns the bank is in the travel center business, and so we were originally founded to help serve truck drivers. So the interesting thing is Tab Bank has never had a branch. We've always conducted business either through the internet or a combination of methods like that. So 23 years ago, what that meant was having fax machines in truck stops. Literally, truck drivers would fax us documents. We would process paperwork. And if you can imagine a truck driver's world, right? I mean, they are the backbone of moving the economy in this country. But they're running their own small business from behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler, right? And so they're 1,000 miles away from home, and they have to conduct banking business. They maybe needed to discount an invoice so they can have money to buy fuel. So they were going in, they would fax us documents after they delivered a load. We would use a method to load cards so they could swipe and buy fuel. And that was the origin of the bank. So in 23 years, we've never had a branch. We've always served our customers through other means. And that gave us kind of a unique perspective. Today, about half of our business is still transportation focused. The majority of the rest of our focus is really just general small business across the country. So we still serve customers in all 50 states. We're based here in Ogden, Utah, but really only about 7% of our customers are here. So we've kind of been doing the not quite digital world, but we were remote banking for a long time.
Let's jump then into the digital first, or I guess the remote first origins of Tab Bank. How did that shape the organization and how you've changed over those last 20 years and gone from, as you described it, fax machines and telephone, working with your customers through the phone, to really moving into the digital age and working and interacting with those customers, serving them through the internet, but not having the legacy of brick and mortar locations. Describe that journey a little bit.
It's an interesting journey, I think. Of course, I'm all in it. But we realized coming after the Great Recession, a couple of years after the Great Recession had ended and things were getting back on track, that we were struggling to keep up with what was going on in the world. We were still using fax machines quite a bit at the time. We were, doing a lot of business through email, which is not a good way to actually conduct business. We had fillable PDF forms, and that was our automation at the time, 7 years ago. And we were taking a couple of weeks to process loan requests. We would take a few days to open a checking account, things of that nature. And so we realized 7 years ago, we needed to embark on a true digital transformation. As we started that journey, I remember talking to our chairman who at the time and telling me, well, we need to invest. And I think the first investment was a $1.4 million investment in a data platform. And I could not make him understand why this was important. We walked through and it took several meetings and hours of presentations to convince him that this was important. And after we did that, we were able to create straight through processing. So we reduced, a couple of week time frame to maybe get an equipment loan to buy a truck, down to a few hours. And that was, an amazing transformation, but we were still not digital. So we were taking data in electronically, but then our systems internally were very manual. So we had to take data, somebody was key entry into another system. So we had so many legacy systems. This is true in banking. It's true in so many industries, right? But particularly in banking. So we had this legacy core. And so the next step after we achieved some success with the first level of digital transformation was, where do we go from here? How do we then take this and move it forward for our customers? And we started thinking about our legacy systems and whether we needed to rip and replace. That's a scary proposition. So we found a better way, which is really building an infrastructure of an API stack to basically take the data in legacy systems and put it in our data platform and be able to use it from there.
That's a common story I've heard. And when I was in IT, before being in tech journalism and media, that was something that we struggled with. And talk about why you made that decision to not just sort of rip out all your legacy systems, but instead went with a solution that, like you're talking about with APIs, that helped you automate the data transfer through those systems and cut out that, as you were describing it, manual data entry between, or the manual moving of between one system and the other. And maybe how has that automation and the trying to move that digital transformation journey, how has it helped you improve operations internally, and then also, externally, and improve your relationship with your customers?
We actually use two different of the what I would call big three core providers, because we have a couple of unique products, and the best systems were in two different companies. So we have so we have Jack Henry and we have Fiserv as providers. When we're looking at it, I'd say 5 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm done with these providers. I want, the most cloud-based new tech out there. And I'm a risk manager at heart. If you're a good banker, you're a risk manager, right? And as we went through that, we realized the risk of going with an unproven cloud-based system to handle an entire bank's operations was too great. And so by default, we settled on this middleware approach, where we kind of built a customer management system of our own on top of our data platform. But the great part about it is the legacy providers do certain things really well. General ledger systems and all of the nuances. And so, as time went on, I realized, my frustration with this situation years ago, while probably justified, didn't justify a rip and replace. So we went on the API route. And it was early in that journey when we happened upon MuleSoft, which was our primary provider. And they really helped lead us in the journey and give us expertise and resources to kind of craft our strategy. And as it took shape, one of the things we didn't expect was the ability then to control data at speed, and not just because I think we talk about scale so much in banking and tech, right? If you're not a big bank, you can't survive. Matter of fact, our chairman, as we were investing money, our former chairman, really wasn't sold on the investment, because he said, how are you going to compete with B of A and Chase? This is ridiculous to think you can compete with them. And we don't. necessarily look to compete with. We look to differentiate ourselves from what they do. And I think the differentiator in the future is speed. And so as we kind of went through this journey, we found that it was not just speed of being able to open an account, because now it takes 3 minutes today to open a checking account with us. We're launching some new systems here this month. It'll be less than 3 minutes. It'll be less than a minute here by the end of the year. So that's important for customer satisfaction. But it's the speed to be able to react to opportunities in the marketplace and to the changes, because it is changing so rapidly out there. And we can move very quickly. You know, we moved very quickly when the pandemic hit. We moved very quickly when PPP opportunities came up to help small businesses. And as a small business focused bank, that was important for us. And the ability to stand up systems and rearrange them. The MuleSoft composability capabilities, the ability to kind of reuse an API for different purposes gives us an incredible amount of speed, not just to serve customers, but to pivot. And that's where I think the future is. If you don't have speed, and if you're not nimble, I think you're going to fall by the wayside. So that was the most important thing. And so as we went through this, as we've been through this journey, the thing that's to me the coolest is that we were running a net promoter score with our customers at about 45, I'd say 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We measured our net promoter score at the end of 19, and it was 72. And then we're a bank that very few of our customers have ever seen us face to face, but yet we still think we're a community bank. And because our community is online, but they're a community of small business owners. And our customers now, 72% would recommend us to a friend or family or friend. And that's an incredibly powerful thing. Now, how did we do it? Because we did it because we're able to manage data well through our API stack, and we're able to take advantage of opportunities and deliver so fast. And our partnership with MuleSoft is a big part of it.
I think that's something I've heard from a lot of CEOs, CTOs in the last few years is really being nimble and being able to adapt rapidly. If I had to ask you, where you see Tab Bank being able to leverage that maybe 1 or 2 years out, what would you say? Because I love that story of, we started focusing on this niche group of customers, within the transportation industry, truck drivers, right? And now we've really, because we've been able to realize, because we've been able to transform our business, and because we are so nimble and our systems allow us to react quickly, we can expand that and we can service more types of customers. Where are you looking to go? You talked a little bit about, some of the bigger banks, and not competing with them on scale, but competing with them on, on service and being able to do things quickly. Where do you see that? What's the next iteration of that? Where's that going in the next couple years for Tab Bank?
We've been working for some time, and we're ready to launch an open banking platform. And what that means really is we've taken control of the data that's in-house at Tab Bank, but the really important potential lift for our customers. And again, this is customer focused. How do we help our customers succeed? And that's by combining data that's in their checking accounts, their borrowing history, or their invoicing register, with data that's external or from other providers. And when you start combining that with data from a payroll provider, data from an accounting system, then you get the holistic picture for the customer. And so open banking, I think, is going to be one of the most monumental changes that we're going to see over the next couple of years. And being able to manage data flow that's going in two directions between third-party providers is going to be a differentiator. And so our ability to leverage our MuleSoft API stack to to deal with external data is the next big lift for the bank and for the banking industry, I think. And the people that can do it well will have, I think, better success for their customers. And again, and that's where value creation is. If you help a customer succeed, then you've got loyalty, you've got trust, and you've got all the things that provide value to the customer, thereby to the bank.
And I'd love to hear your take because data is at the heart of, I think, what so many organizations um, are doing with their digital transformation efforts. But a lot of them either may not know what to do with the data or how to sort of best use the data, not just to serve them, but also serve their customers. There's always concerns, especially with financial informations around data and privacy and security and those kinds of things. Talk to me about your just philosophy, or expand a little bit more on how you're using that data in a positive way that, like, you kind of touched on, right? I mean, there's a lot of concern around things like AI and ML using data to possibly to in a way that can be detrimental to some segments because AI and ML algorithms, however smart you think they are, they're really just programmed by people. And so they're only as good as the people that develop them. They're only as good as how transparent they are. They're only as good as the data they get in. So I'd love to hear your thinking as someone on the who's doing this on a daily basis, how you're thinking about that data from both a, hey, here's how we're going to use that. Here's how we're going to surface that to our customers. Here's how we're going to use it to help them. Here's how we're going to use it to help ourselves grow. Yeah, expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I think when you look at that, it's one of the most important things we talk about is security, permissionable data. Does the customer transparently know what we're doing with the data? Are they gonna permission it? And what you find when you do surveys, and we've done focus groups and surveys with our own customer base, is they're very willing to give data. That's not very willing, mostly willing to give the data over for insights and value coming back. And once you proven you can do that, which we have with some of our capabilities already, they're all in. But then it becomes our responsibility, right? Banking is a system that's based on trust. And when I talked about our net promoter scores going up, and I talk about some of the other things that our customer satisfaction scores are very high, we believe that there's empathy and trust at the core of all of that. And so if we mess up with data, we messed up that, right? And that's our golden chalice, so to speak. And so we're very sensitive about that. And that's another reason why we pick why we pick providers like MuleSoft when we're dealing with data, because of security, reliability, reusability, all of those factors. And so, we're very careful and thoughtful about how we do that and sensitive to that. And we pick partners. In order to do this, we have a deep partnership model, meaning that how does a small bank in Ogden, Utah provide services across the country like this? Well, it's through deep partnership with tech companies and fintechs. And I'm not going to, I don't have the capability to invest enough money to build a sophisticated AI model, but I can hire a firm that's good at it. And so for us, we have probably one of the largest compliance operations for our size institution. We have a large IT group, and combined, there's a vendor management requirement for banks, right? You have to do a certain amount of due diligence. We've taken a chunk of our vendor management program and turned it into a partnership, strategic partners program. And so we do more due diligence on our own to understand what they're doing on their end to help protect data, et cetera, and respect data. We really need to respect it. And so, we spend a lot of time doing it. It's a lot of governance lift, which is not fun or sexy, but it's really important. If we lose trust, we lose everything.
Yeah, that is so important. Well, I've got one more question for you, Kurt, because I know our time is limited. If you had one bit of advice to give to someone who's watching this, another C-level executive, another person who's looking for, that's in the same place maybe Tab Bank was when you started this kind of digital transformation, and they're looking to replicate that in their organization. What would that be? I mean, you talked about having to convince the board of actually just making that transformation. I think that's a story that resonates with a lot of people, that they have to sort of be a champion for this process. But I'd love to hear if there's one other piece of advice that you would share with people for how to get that process right.
It's all about the data, which we were just talking about. I think the one thing, and I did a lot of studying, reading. They're very, smart people like Chris Skinner and Brett King and others in the fintech world globally. When you read about it, an ability to control and manage data is the foundation of being able to make this transformation. And so we started with a data platform and we built out from there. But once we had that data platform, we were able to create an incredible amount of efficiency and leverage off of those systems. And so, AI is great. All of the things that are happening out there are sexy and they look fantastic. And trust me, we made a lot of failed attempts at doing a lot of things that were shiny object type things that didn't work out for us. But fundamentally, what has worked was putting a focus on data integrity, on data management, and just focusing on it. And we keep rebuilding our data platform over and over again. And it's a journey that we won't finish. And so we keep that focus on the data, being able to move it at speed, one source of truth. And if you focus on that, the rest will fall into place.
That's a perfect place to end it. So Kurt, again, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing the story of Tab Bank.
Yeah, Bill, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to all our viewers and listeners for joining us. Now, you can listen to more episodes of Dynamic Developer on your favorite podcast platform, or you can watch a video of each episode and read a transcript at TechRepublic.